Bro, you said you were gonna drop a video every 2 weeks. Welcome back to the channel. So we just spent a good amount of our life savings on this disaster.
Brother, what's that?
Yeah, but as first timers, we have no idea what we're doing. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Morgan Hassan. The channel focuses on investment, personal finance, and real estate. To start, real estate has always been a passion of ours. We've both already owned long-term rentals. We've both been homeowners before, so we have experience with real estate. We have experience with the buying process, with the selling process, and all of those basic real estate transactions. But this is actually the first time we've gone in and bought a property with the intention of immediately fixing it and flipping it. So how we actually found the property was through a wholesaler. Most things you find on the MLS really don't have enough margin in them to really make sense as a flip. Most homeowners are really trying to get the absolute most they can out of their house, and on flips you make money when you buy. So you have to be able to buy the home, something like 70 to 60% of ARV. ARV stands for after repair value. That's important. That's a key term to know because that's what lenders and pretty much all of flipping kind of is driven off of the ARV, the after repair value of the house. So anyway, we found the property through a wholesaler. It was an off-market property. The wholesaler reached out, asked if we were interested, and it's actually a condo, so we weren't really too interested in condos. Condos are actually harder to sell. You have to deal with HOAs, and overall, they're just a more risky flip, in my opinion. But it was a pretty great price. And we also wanted to start small with our first project. We didn't want to get something that was as expensive as, like a $500,000, $400,000 house. We didn't want to start in that range. We wanted to start with something manageable, something that gave us a little bit of room to make mistakes and learn and not lose everything with the mistakes. It was originally offered at $185,000. And at $185,000, it wasn't a bad deal, but there was very little margin there. We would probably walk away with something like $20,000 to $25,000 of profit if everything went right and if the market didn't significantly drop over the time we held it. Those are definitely risks we have to keep in mind. So we were aware of that, and at $185,000, we just said, whatever, let's go check it out. Let's go see how things look, and let's see if we can make a deal. So we went to see the property. Now, the property is currently occupied with tenants, which that's a whole nother thing. So we went to see it. It was pretty much full of stuff, so we didn't get to see every corner, every part of the home. Definitely could be some hidden damage. But overall, it was a good property. It was in a good location. The buildings and the grounds actually looked really clean and well kept. There wasn't any trash anywhere. The unit itself just needed updating. It was built in 1982, and I'm pretty sure everything in there was from 1982. Minus the furnace was replaced like 6 or 7 years ago, but all the cabinetry, all the flooring, I'm pretty sure some of the appliances are at least 20 years old. It just needed some love and an update. So we decided to go under contract at $185,000 with the assumption we had been told that the tenants would be out on or before the day we closed. So everything's great, and we actually started to go after the deal with financing. We were going to get a hard money loan, which would have loaned us up to 70% of ARV on this particular property. 70% of ARV at the lender's valuation is $175,000. So we'd have to come up with the other $10,000 and we could close on the property. To explain what a hard money loan is, a hard money loan or an interest-only loan is not like a mortgage. It's a short-term loan, typically a 6-month or 1-year term, and all you pay on the loan is the interest. So in our example, at $175,000 at a 11% interest rate for a 6-month term, we'd have to pay something like $1,800 a month every month until we sold the property. And again, that's only interest. So when we sold, let's say we sold the property for $260,000, which is what we think ARV is on the property, that means we'd immediately have to pay back that full $175,000. Every interest payment we paid before that does not go towards that principal amount. So it's not like a mortgage. With a mortgage, you have principal and interest. where your payments both pay interest and some of the principal. Obviously, at the beginning of the mortgage, you pay a lot more interest and a lot less principal. But on these interest only or hard money loans, you strictly pay interest until you sell the property. So that's why timing and the speed at which you can flip, all of that stuff is super important. And with us having tenants in the property, it was really big for us to make sure those tenants were out when we closed on the property. So the day before we closed, it was actually a requirement of the lender that they do a walk with you. And when you do that walk, it's basically for them to kind of walk through the renovation plans you have, as well as to give you some advice. They're like your partner in the situation because they want you to pay the loan back. Not only because they want their money back, but also because they want you to continue to come back and get money from them. So on our walk, we walk in and the tenants, it looks exactly the same as the first time we walked in. And, I was a little confused because it's so much stuff. And I was like, man, how are they going to move all this stuff in 2 days? So, I'm walking it, but again, nothing was packed. There was still stuff everywhere. And it was so much stuff that it would definitely have taken them at least 2 weeks to even think about moving. So anyways, we walked the property with the construction manager from the lender, really cool guy, gave us a lot of good advice, pointed us in the right direction to help us with this flip. So on our way out, I just went by the tenants and said, thank you so much for letting us in. And I just asked, hey, I'm going to close on this property tomorrow. I was just wondering, were you guys planning to move this weekend or, what's your plans? And they said, we have 90 days. In the state of Colorado, tenants need to have at least a 90-day notice to vacate a property. And the owner didn't give notice until 15 days before they offered to us to buy. So that meant immediately, that put an extra 2 months on our flip timeline. So that kind of threw us for a loop, and we contacted the owner, we contacted the wholesaler, and basically told them, this is not what we originally discussed. And they were saying, the tenants said they were on board, you guys can give them some incentive to leave early. And for us, this just was not the deal anymore, because 2 months of interest just sitting there, that's just free money. That's just money we were giving away because we can't work on the property. We can't get anything done in those months. So we essentially called off the deal. And the wholesaler was pretty upset because we had already gone under contract, but at the end of the day, the numbers just didn't work for us anymore. So we were going back and forth. They said, what will work? What number would make it work for you? Originally, they said, we'll take $5,000 off. And I said, no, that's just not enough with the extra carrying costs we have. And not to mention, if we got the property in June and immediately got working on it, we could still list in what's considered like a summer market. We could get it listed in August, which is right at the end of the summer. And the summer is when most people move, when most people buy. And that's usually when prices are the highest during the year. With us getting it 2 months later, that means we wouldn't even get to start working on it until August. That means we might not be listing until October or November, depending on how things go. The market, which is already declining, could be in a completely different place. And we were just not ready to take that kind of risk on our first property. We canceled the contract, which that's a big deal because we could have potentially lost our earnest money. The wholesaler's basic thing is, if you sign with us, if you sign a contract, you lose your earnest money, period, the end. We were able to negotiate with them. We were able to talk it out. And essentially they were like, okay, you can take that $7,500 and apply it to another property that you buy with us. Great. Awesome. So we had moved on. We had already started looking for another property. And 3 days later, the wholesaler reaches out and says, hey, the owner asked if you'd still be interested at 160. And 160 is a completely different number than 185. And originally, when the wholesaler reached out to us and said, we'll give you $5,000 off, I ran my numbers and was like, the only way this will really work for us with these circumstances is at 160. So that's where they got that number from. My eyes lit up because 160, that's an amazing price. At 160, we could buy it, just clean it up and make profit. Here's make sure any damage is fixed and immediately list it and easily make 30 grand. That's on the low end, right? So at 160, I was like, man, this actually does make sense as a deal. And at that price, we had the cash to buy it too, which typically I'm not a huge fan of using my own money. I'm definitely team OPM, other people's money. But At 160, and with the current risks in the market as well as like the macroeconomic risks, it kind of made sense for us to just go into this smaller deal with cash, learn the process, be able to quickly close. That actually helped us get the lower price by saying, we're going to do cash now. And also, we would make about $15,000 more on the sale and on the flip by paying cash, because we don't have to pay any lender fees. With the lender fees, you have to pay like an origination fee. Typically, you'll have to pay interest up front. This particular lender we were going to go with was going to charge 3 months of interest up front, as well as points. Just those fees, the $1,000 initiation fee, the 2 points, and the 3 months of interest up front, that alone was about $9,000. And then when you bring into extra months of interest we had to pay because the tenants had to stay and it would take longer, and any extra months of interest while the property's listed and trying to sell, that's pretty much $15,000 of profit that we lose because we had to get a loan. Since we had the cash, we just decided that this is going to be a deal we're going to go for. We're going to take the chance on it, and we're going to pay cash. So what are the headwinds? What are our risks, right? So we decided to go forward with the property. So what does that mean for us? Well, now the tenants are still there. The tenants never left. The tenants are definitely still in play, and it's going to be our responsibility to, one, make sure they're out, and two, hope that they don't leave all their junk, whatever the case may be, because that will all be our responsibility. But that's the kind of stuff that comes with these deals, right? There's no way you're going to get a property that should be worth at least $230,000 to $240,000 for $160,000 unless there's some risks or some things wrong with it and things like that. And that's really what buying real estate off market and buying flips is about. It's about finding properties that people don't want to deal with, finding properties that have some damage or that are maybe hoarded out or whatever, and being able to negotiate and get them at a really low price, being able to put the money into them to bring them up to market and still have a lot of margin in there to make money when they sell. So what's the plan? Well, we are going to close on the property, and immediately our plan is to reach out to the tenants, give them a call, introduce ourselves, and our plan is to try to, at first, at least give the tenants an opportunity to leave for an incentive. So we're going to start somewhere around like the $1,000 mark and say, hey, if you guys will agree to be out by this date, we'll give you $1,000 to help with your moving costs and things like that. If that doesn't work, no problem. We're not paying any interest. So, we'll wait for their full 90 days and they should be out by early August. Now, there is a chance that the tenants don't leave at the end of their 90 days. And in that case, we'll have to go through the eviction process, which we're hoping we don't have to do. The owner says the tenants have been great tenants over the past 8 years, and they've been there for 8 years, right? That's a long time. So we don't think we're going to have to do that. We're hopeful we don't have to do that, but that is a possibility, and that's a risk with this, and that's why for us, the loan was just a bit too risky in the current market conditions for us to use on this first deal. So stick around. We look forward to taking you through this journey with us. It's going to be fun. We're super excited, and we hope you guys stick around to see the process. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Can't wait to take you on this journey with us. Peace.